Welcome to Lost in Possession podcast. Chelsea and Liverpool play on Tuesday, and we thought what a good way to do a starting 11 for the all-time Premier League between the two. Let's get straight into it. Roll that in. Here we go. Welcome back to the Lost in Possession podcast. First things first, hit that subscribe button, please. It helps us more than you know, and we want to grow the platform as much as possible. Now, just before we get into the starting 11s and our picks, Potter was sacked was it yesterday? Now, Jordan, let's hear your sort of initial reaction as a Chelsea fan. Has this come as a shock to you? And are you supportive of this decision, or is it a bad decision you can think of?
Yeah, I think it's a weird one. I mean, the timing of it, I think, was still surprising in terms of, we had the game Saturday, obviously a very bad result, now down into 11th. But then for it not to be done immediately after, and sort of to be done late on a Sunday evening felt a bit strange. So in that sense, it was surprising. I think the fact that we'd given him a big 5-year contract, obviously got him out of Brighton. I think from looking at it from that angle, it is surprising in the bigger picture, because we thought as Chelsea fans, rightly or wrongly, it felt like maybe this was the start of a new era, where we actually keep managers for a few seasons and try and build a project. And again, Reece, you've said it before with American owners, the Arsenal model, where they've stuck with Arteta through thick and thin, and at the minute they're getting that payoff. I think deep down, a lot of people didn't actually think he'd be sacked, even though the form was terrible. But I think in the end, the pressure from the fans, particularly on social media, and we've seen evidence that Bodie does actually go on social media and check Chelsea Twitter and the rest of it. So maybe in the end, I think his decision was probably influenced. Well, I mean, maybe that's a bit of a shot, but ultimately, I think the fans have played the role in this sacking, if I'm being honest. That might sound crazy, but you can't spend, I'll say 300 mil, because obviously everyone's saying 600 mil, but Potter spent 300 mil, and you can't be 11th position in the league. Simple as that. We're Chelsea Football Club, we win trophies, and you can accept a bad season, but being in 11th place with the money spent and the quality is not acceptable. And in the end, I don't think he was the right character fit. Wish him no hard feelings, but we move on. And the Chelsea we know and love will be back very, very soon.
Right, let's stop all the Potter talk. His magic has gone. Let's get into the starting 11 goalkeepers. I'm going to come to you, Reece. Who's your goalie of choice?
Petr Cech.
Petr Cech.
Yeah. It can't be anyone else. I mean, as good as Alisson's been, Petr Cech over the course of since he signed in 2004 and left in 2015, that was 11 years of very, very good quality. Probably could go down as even the best keeper in the Premier, or maybe after Schmeichel. I don't know, but yeah, no brainer.
Yeah, this one was very easy. Probably one of the easiest of the lot. Cech, 494 appearances over 11 years, 7th most caps of all time, 4 Prems, 4 FA Cups, the iconic Champions League, Europa. Yeah, absolute man mountain, and Premier League and Chelsea legend, Petr Cech all the way.
Yeah. 3 for 3 here with Petr Cech. I think he's the best goalie in Premier League era. So this was just an obvious choice. Alisson's done very well for Liverpool. Even though Liverpool are not doing well this season, I still think he's having a great season, and he's kept actually Liverpool from being beaten more times. So there's no hard feelings to him, but yeah, it's Cech. I think a bit more trickier, right back. Let's go to you, Jordan, first. Who's your right back of choice?
Yeah, you're right. This one wasn't easy. There was quite a few names, and I did actually change my answer on this one. I'll throw a few names who I was sort of, had in my mind. Obviously, in terms of longevity and appearances, you've got Carragher at Liverpool, iconic for them. in terms of, potential and winning trophies, you've got Trent at Liverpool as well. Obviously young, not at the end of his career, but has accomplished so much already. In terms of quality and the person who looks that could be one of the best right backs, Reece James, but again, he's early in his career. So the man I settled on is the sixth most capped player in Chelsea history. And it feels like he's been around forever. He's accomplished literally every accolade there is. Cesar Azpilicueta. One of the most, in my opinion, criminally underrated defenders in the Premier League era. He's won every trophy. No one ever expected him to be a big name or big signing. And as I said, he's the sixth most capped player in Chelsea history and has won every single trophy. So I think over longevity, has to be Azpilicueta for me.
Reese, do you agree?
No, actually, I actually went for Reece James. The only as silly as that sounds, I don't even think he's made 100 league appearances for Chelsea yet, but I think he's been outstanding. I think he's been everything that you want in a right back. Yes, Trent could have got there, but his form this season has perhaps suggested otherwise. I think Reece James has been consistently above 7 out of 10 near enough every game, and if he was fit more often, there'd be a lot more from him. So I personally had to go with Reece James on this.
Well, that's 3 for 3 where we all disagree. So we've gone from all agreeing to all disagreeing. I've gone Trent because of what, like Reece James, I think hasn't done it consistently because he's been injured, and that does affect what the player does, in my opinion. And I think what Trent has done has been the highlight of changing the right back position from the sort of, if you're probably one of the worst players of the team, you're normally the right back, you're normally the left back, you're normally a full back. I think Trent's changed that from his quality. Now the only thing against it is this season. This season he's been, I think there's no other word, terrible. So if he continues like this, you can kick him out, kind of thing. But I think from the quality he's shown, I don't think has been seen by really any right back in the Premier League era. So I'm going with Trent. Now we've got 3 different decisions. I think we need to try and pick one to have an all-time team. Is anyone willing to concede their choice for someone else?
I think this is all-time Prem. So I think for me, Reece James, it's too early to put him in it. That's my honest opinion. And he, in terms of quality, like if I had to pick a starting team now, I'd pick Reece James over any right back in the world. But on Premier League accolades, obviously he's not won one yet. He may well do in the future. I think it's got to be.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think Reece has got to make the decision here, because I think me and Jordan have both gone no to Reece James because we think it's a bit too early. I think it's Azpilicueta or Trent.
I mean, his longevity, Azpilicueta, yes, and his leadership, he's been outstanding. But I think I have to agree with Jamie. I think Trent changed the right back position, so I have to go Trent. But I will admit, I think this is a position where a low bar is probably very, very harsh. But I'd argue there hasn't been like the most obvious choice, which is a good thing. So I'll go with Trent just because I think he changed the position of a right back.
There we go. Let's go. I'll go back to you, Jordan, for a centre back. Pick your one centre back, and I think we know who it's going to be.
Yeah.
But let's you can have one on the board that I think we're all going to agree with.
Yeah, I'll get the obvious one.
Horn.
What's that? Who?
Boularus or Del Horno.
Yeah, I'll get the obvious one out of the way. John Terry, captain, leader, legend. If you boys haven't got him in your team, I think we need to just delete the podcast. Yeah, outstanding. I don't even need to read off his accolades. In my opinion, and many people agree, he is one of the best centre backs of all time. Definitely in the Prem. The stats just I'll read off some stats anyway. We love a good stat here. 19 years. I think he captained 12 of those 19 years. 5 Prems, 4 FA Cups, 3 League Cups, Champions League, Europa League, and 57 goals as well. You've got to bear that in mind, which for a centre back is pretty mad. So yeah, John Terry. I hope you boys agree on that one at least.
Yeah, I'm not gonna hide it. Not gonna try and wind you up just yet. Terry's in my team. Reese, is it 3 for 3?
Yeah, best centre back the Premier League's ever seen. Makes Saliba
Yeah.
Senderos in my opinion. So as far as I'm concerned, he's brilliant.
Right, I think this one's a bit more tricky. The other centre back. Reese, I'm going to start with you on this one. Who have you got for?
Well, I think this might be a bit of a shock actually, but this one is a Chelsea player. He spent 6 years with the club, and I think he was quite integral into bringing John Terry into who he is as a player, or who he was as a player. I've gone for Marcel Desailly. Carvalho was great, Jamie Carragher was great, and an honourable mention to Daniel Agger, who was also great, and Van Dijk. But I believe Marcel Desailly was an outstanding centre back. I think he's one of the few players who won the Champions League twice in a row with two different clubs, Milan and Marseille. And I think he really helped John Terry form his own. I think he was a great, great player. And 6 years out of him, bearing in mind he was in his 30s when he joined, can't knock it.
Jordan, have you got a Chelsea player or have you got a Liverpool player or someone
So
different?
I have gone with a Liverpool player for this one, and this was quite difficult to pick a second because there's a few players, and Reece, Carvalho is definitely one that came to mind because of that sort of defensive record, that Mourinho era. He had a big impact. Again, Desai, quality player as well. For me, I went with Van Dijk. I went with Van Dijk because for me, although he's only been at the club sort of 5 years, I think you talk about visibly seeing a quality player and a level above. And the impact Van Dijk has had on that Liverpool defence over the last 5 years for me has just been sensational. He came in as the big money signing, massively hyped, had to deliver, and he's absolutely delivered. Although again, this season he's not been at his best. That aside, what he's accomplished under Liverpool, over 250 appearances, 6 major trophies. You've got to remember that 70 match unbeaten record at Anfield as well. Just insane. And he has been a class above ever since signing. So I had to go with Van Dijk.
Yeah, my one. So I was between two players. It was Carvalho was my other choice. I thought because obviously the season he had with Terry, conceding so little goals, was it 15 goals in the league? Like that's just unreal. That's technically, I know people will talk about Ferdinand and Vidic, but that's technically the best Premier League centre back pairing definitely over a season. But I've also gone with Van Dijk. I think he's shown such a level that's not really been seen at centre backs, and the whole year where he didn't get dribbled past once is sort of unreal for defenders who have got to put in tackles like he has. Yeah, his form has dipped this season. I think it has slightly dipped since his injury, really, the one that Pickford took him out on. But for what he was doing at that time, and he's still at a high level now, yeah, Van Dijk's my next choice to centre back. On to a left back. I found this one quite easy. I don't know if you two did, but I'm going to start off, and it's Ashley Cole. I think he's the best left back in Premier League history. Robertson, very, very good player, just not on the level of Cole, and that's no disrespect to Robertson, in my opinion. Do you boys disagree? Got anyone different?
No, you have to go Ashley Cole. Again, best left back in the Premier League ever.
Yeah, I think I gave it away by nodding when you said him. But yeah, easy one there.
We've got Spotify listeners. Don't forget them, Jordan.
Oh, sorry. So
They
yeah,
can't hear you.
Spotify listeners.
They can't hear a nod.
Spotify listeners, it is Ashley Cole, without a doubt. Again, quick stats. This is for Chelsea alone. Isn't even talking about what he did for Arsenal, which was unreal. 338 appearances, won the league, the Champions League, the Europa League, 4 FA Cups and the League Cup. The GOAT left back.
Yeah, and he's an invincible as well, isn't he? I know that's with Arsenal, but he's got it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. absolutely. Now, this is the position I found the hardest out of all of them. Sort of centre defensive midfielder in the 4-3-3 formation. Who have you got, Jordan? Because I found this a struggle, and I'm still not convinced on my answer just yet.
Yeah, this was tough, and I think I've picked someone who you won't have gone for, both of you. And there's so many honourable mentions on this list of midfielders. I went for Claude Makelele. Now, again, I guess this is similar to your Trent point, but the impact that Makelele had, not just on Chelsea, but the CDM position as a whole, it is legendary. You know, he literally almost renamed an entire position, the Makelele role, for years and years. You know, again, in the whole scheme of it, only 217 appearances. Well, I mean, it's a lot, but compared to some of the names we're reeling off, isn't a lot. But in that time, you know, he achieved 2 Premier Leagues, two League Cups, 1 FA Cup, and completely redefined what it means to be a CDM who can create chances, defend, and cut off the play. So for me, yeah, Makelele and CDM.
Yeah, this is the easiest pick by far. It's Claude Makelele, the man who, when he left, Zinedine Zidane famously said, "Why put another layer of paint on the Bentley when you're losing an entire engine?" You know, that says it all when you're getting praised like that. Even if Fernando Herrero said when he left Real Madrid, it was the end of the Galacticos. The player who literally went unnoticed on the pitch was the best player by far. He was what everything a defensive midfielder should be. So can't go with anyone else.
Okay, so yeah, he was in. So I had three names for this. Makelele was one. The other was Kante, just for how good he's been. Can even go from sort of a league back to back. You can talk about his Champions League performance against City, where he was the best player on the pitch, bar none. He's been fantastic constantly. And the other name was a Liverpool player, Xavi Alonso. Absolute formidable player, and was sort of Liverpool fans absolutely love him because he was so great. But I don't think this makes it a bit easier when you two have picked the same player. So Makelele will be the CDM. What a player he was! Like, there's no two ways about it. Was a surprise leaving Real Madrid to go to Chelsea at the time, but once he proved himself to be still an unreal player and making a great decision. Him still moving.
Yeah.
Now on to the centre mids. Got two here. Is this going to be fairly obvious? Jordan, do you want to start off? Let's go with one of them. Who are you going to pick?
Well, I'll start off with probably the most obvious, in my opinion. Again, that's probably a debate for another day, but Super Frankie Lampard obviously is in my midfield. What can you say about Lampard? He not only has he achieved so much with Chelsea from such a young age, but he is on the list of Premier League all-time top scorers, and he's a midfielder. That is why he, in my opinion, will go down as one of the greatest, if not probably the greatest, in my opinion, in Premier League history, just because of those goals numbers. There's so many other players, and we'll get onto them in a moment. But that stat alone for me is the one that elevates him from anyone else. The goals that he has scored. Yeah, again, quickly reeling off some of the achievements: 3 Premier Leagues, Champions League, Europa League, 4 FA Cups, 2 League Cups. It's just ridiculous.
And don't forget Manchester City legend. Scoring against Chelsea as well, putting it in there. Good fun. But no, I've got Lampard in as well. Reese.
I know this is the whole point of this is to be the best, and on paper, yes, it's obvious who them two are going to be. So I thought, said this, I'm going for someone else. And I put Xavi Alonso in the centre midfield position. Personally, I don't think Lampard and next player would ever work well in midfield, and they never did.
We didn't, yeah.
Let's be blunt
It
there.
got proven it didn't.
Let's be fair there. That's why I've gone with that. But in terms of the best, yes, he is.
Yeah, we're forgetting that the team might not actually work, but yeah. Okay, so let's get the next name out of the way. Steven Gerrard, Stevie G, formidable player, scoring goals left, right, and centre, and pretty much carrying that Liverpool team to trophies when they are not the Liverpool team that have been the last 3 or 4 seasons where they've had an overall great teams. Liverpool, Gerrard's had to carry a poor Liverpool sides and still win them trophies. Can talk about his FA Cup goal against West Ham that kept him in it to then eventually win the competition. It's constant things like that that make him one of the greats in midfield, that some people class him as the best centre mid in Premier League history. Have you two got him in your team?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the reason I chose him over Lampard, like I said, I do like Lampard, but I think Gerrard just offered us something different. Like you said, how many times was he the one digging Liverpool out of a hole? Let's be honest, without Steven Gerrard, would Liverpool have gone on to achieve? I know they didn't achieve massive amounts under him, but would they have gone on to win that Champions League against Milan? I very much doubt that. You know, I think of his integral roles, and I think Lampard's class, but I think that Chelsea team would have probably still been quite successful without Lampard. It's I think Gerrard, yeah, has to go in just his sheer impact alone. And
I do have to say I don't like that argument that people use when they're doing it. It's also partly his fault for being in a worse side. So I don't like that when they say, "Oh, he did it great for a worse side," because if you're in a worse side, it's not always because he's obviously a big Liverpool fan, but you're sometimes in that team because you're not as good as the other player and you have a better team around it. That's the only thing. I agree you should be in this team and all that, but I just hate that argument. I
His
don't
head
think you
was
should
turned
bring a
by
player
us.
down. What was that?
No, I'm saying to your point, his head was turned. I mean, he was always almost going to come Chelsea.
yeah,
You've seen the sort of comments on that,
yeah, he can't be Mr. Yeah, that's the thing he says about he's Mr. Liverpool, doesn't he? But he still almost went to Chelsea. So
and I
just
think
like
as
Bobby
well,
Moore almost went to Spurs, isn't it? It's all
yeah,
over the place, really.
I think Reece. I obviously can't agree. I mean, this is a Premier League all-time team, and Gerrard, I'll get it in early, has not won a Premier League. Um, whereas Lampard's won 3. So for me, that debate is no brainer. But on Gerrard, look, unreal player, iconic Liverpool legend, 17 seasons, 700 appearances, ridiculous. Obviously, his most iconic accolade is that Champions League comeback, without question. Also, worth noting, Gerrard is in the top 5 all-time Liverpool list for both appearances and goals, which is quite a rare accolade. And he was also named PFA Player of the Year 8 times. So there you go, some stats for you there. But yeah, Gerrard, no question in this side.
Moving on to our front three. Who have you got as your right winger? Reece?
I went Salah on the right.
Obviously a man who's played for both.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, that's true. I mean, most of these players seem to have played for both in some capacity, but or been linked. But Salah, for me, I think people can't underestimate just how good he's been since he signed in 2017. I mean, he was excellent for Roma, but come on, this is a whole different level of player. You know, he's gone above and beyond and under Klopp's, I suppose, tutorage, if you will. Can't knock Salah.
Yeah,
Jordan?
yeah, impossible to put someone else there for me. Again, he's almost redefined to some degree that right winger role with the stats he's been producing. The golden boots, the consistency. Again, maybe slightly ignoring this season, but last season the stuff he was doing, and the season before that, and obviously when they won the league, the things he's doing are just inhumane. It's ridiculous. And you get excited. There's been so many great wingers over the years for both clubs, but no one has ever produced that level of output from a wide position. So for me, Mo Salah, 100%.
Yep, 3 for 3. Salah, obviously, like you mentioned, his goals currently holds the most goals in a 38-game season of 32. Possibly going to be beaten by the Nordic Meat Shield is in Haaland, but not happened. So he's still got that record to boast about, but formidable player. And I've seen him score against City way too many times. Moving on to the left wing. Let's start with you, Jordan. There's a few players here who definitely fit into this role.
Yeah, so I am almost certain that you boys will not have gone for this one. He is the man. I'll spin round see if you can see for the big reveal. But it is Gianfranco Zola. My personal favourite Chelsea player of all time. Now, a lot of people who are non-Chelsea fans obviously won't remember Zola and won't have seen his clips. Now, I've got to talk about some of the things. I mean, first and foremost, if no one's seen any clips of Zola, you've got to go and watch the clip of his goal against Norwich in 2002. It is unreal, and if that doesn't define the level of quality this guy is, I don't know what more you can ask for. By many, he's regarded as one of the best Italian attackers of all time. In 2003, he was voted by Chelsea fans as the greatest ever player to play for the club. He was technically brilliant. He could score goals. He could take free kicks. One of the most skillful players I've ever watched and had the pleasure of watching. Again, a couple of quick stats: UEFA Cup Winners' Cup, UEFA Super Cup, 2 FA Cups, 312 appearances and 80 goals. Yeah, my favourite player of all time and an absolute joy, Gianfranco Zola.
Reese, who have you gone for in the left wing position?
I mean, it's a good shout, and he was one of my honourable mentions, but I've actually gone for Mane. Sorry, I think again, I thought Joe Cole almost winning it himself, but I look at Mane and his achievements at Liverpool again, took on a whole new level when he joined the club, and let's be honest, look how much they probably miss him now. So I really think that Mane, I think it doesn't necessarily go noticed how good he actually is or was for Liverpool. So I've gone Mane. I think he was outstanding.
Being honest, I didn't think of Zola. He did slip my mind. I had an honourable mention for Mane as well. So we are going 3 different players. I've gone for Eden Hazard. Now, I think he was at one point, well, for a few seasons, was the best player in the Premier League. And he doesn't have the goal and assist stats that people always look at in terms of players. But he was so exciting to watch. And I think all Chelsea fans loved him. And I think what probably damages his reputation is what's gone on since he left. It's been a complete flop. But while he was at Chelsea, he was so exciting, so sort of important for that team and winning several trophies with you. Now we've got to make a decision again. To be honest, I'm happy to concede, but it is a tough one where I'm going over. I didn't watch Zola that much. I don't have, it's sort of like recency bias in a way. So that's where he would fall off on mine and I would pick Mane.
Yeah, I mean, for what it's worth, Zola was basically the Hazard before Hazard was Hazard. That's the best way I can put it. Skillful, quick, pacey, energetic, but he could score free kicks.
So I think, unfortunately, Jordan, as much as you'd love Zola to be in it, is going to lose 2-1 on this.
Done.
I think that is a bit of a recency bias, but I can only do what I've actually seen.
That's fair.
So now, finally, our strikers position. Now, I think I know who Jordan's going to go for. So I'm going to start with him because I think he's going to fight this one tooth and nail to try and have him in. Jordan, give us your pick.
I mean, there's been a lot of good strikers, first and foremost, for both sides. To throw out some names, obviously Torres, you can make a debate who he was good for.
I don't think there's a debate. I think he was only good for one of you.
Luis Suarez as well, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. But for me, it's probably the biggest game player in football history. Maybe that's too big, but you know, you talk about moments, you talk about big game mentality and stepping up when it matters most. And in Chelsea history, Didier Drogba is that man. We all know, I don't have to go over his accolades, but the iconic Champions League win for Chelsea, Chelsea's first, that alone for me puts him above so many other people in what he's done. But his accolades are very, very good. And although he'll be remembered more so for that iconic Champions League, he's won 4 Premier League titles, 4 FA Cup, 3 league titles. And you've got to remember, in so many of these finals, he was the man scoring, not just playing well, scoring that goal when it mattered, time and time and time again. So for me, he was the whole package, and he made other players better. So for me, I had to go Didier Drogba.
Reese, you agreeing? Yeah. Disagreeing?
No, I mean Drogba was very, very close, and if this was a 4-4-2, there'd have been no debate on that. He was a good game player. I thought about it. This is a really hard one because I think players, not so much in recent memory, but the likes of Robbie Fowler, Michael Owen, if he stayed at Liverpool long enough, would have definitely have been contenders there. Torres himself. I actually went for Luis Suarez though. I know, yes, he didn't win that Premier League trophy. Yes, he's probably, Drogba's won those sorts of trophies, but overall, you can't knock Luis Suarez. Like, what a player! Like, it wasn't just the way he played, like the goals he scored, like the audacity of some of these goals. Look at them goals he scored against Norwich, for example. I think all in all, I think if you include all competitions, it was 82 goals in 133 games for Liverpool, which is an insane record. Bearing in mind that I think he's closing in on 500 career goals in total. I think he's got about 470, something like that, altogether in his career. You can't knock Luis Suarez. I think what he did as a centre forward, he changed so much. Unbelievable. And it was just mesmerising watching him sometimes. Just the things he would pull off. Both in terms of goals and stupid behaviour. But he was, yeah, he was the right maverick. You couldn't knock him, and I think any team would have taken him. Anybody.
Right, so that brings it down to me, and I was actually between both of them. Of course, they're both written on my list next to me, and it's a tough one because if I'm thinking of just Premier League era, Suarez wasn't there enough compared to what Drogba was. But if I wanted the player over a full season, I'd be picking Suarez. I do think that Didier Drogba is, Jordan's not going to like this, but he is slightly overrated as a whole striker. I think he's very good. He's like, it's not that he's not very good. I don't think he's in the same caliber as these players, some of the strikers that get mentioned. However, this is a Premier League 11. So despite me calling him overrated, I am putting Drogba in my team. But if I counted Suarez's whole career, he'd be over Drogba. But I'm not. So Drogba is going to be the striker.
I'm glad you saved that horrible comment.
It's not a horrible comment.
4 Premier Leagues, 4 Premier League trophies.
It's not saying he's a bad player. It's never that. But in terms of what you want the striker to do, he wasn't on the same level as Suarez in terms of goals. But we're talking Premier League only, and he performed it in that Premier League era under Chelsea massively. So I'm going to quickly read out the team that we've decided for the best 11 Premier League team between Chelsea and Liverpool. Cech in goal, Trent as right back, Terry, Van Dijk, Cole as left back, Makelele, CDM, Lampard, Gerrard, of course, Salah right wing, Mane left wing, and Didier Drogba up front.
Boom. What a team that is. Or maybe not. Gerrard and Lampard, maybe they wouldn't work together after all, as we saw with England. But as always, that wraps us up for another episode. By all means, please let us know in the comments on Instagram, on TikTok. Have we missed anyone? We covered a lot of positions, but I'm sure there's always players and maybe some stats we've missed off as well. But as always, like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill.